Hello, hello, and we're done with UFC Apex Vegas 94. I think is the number we were up to there. Anyways, let's have a look back at the fights. Also, I mean, we'll get this out of the way. Mike Perry lost to Jake Paul in boxing. Not surprised. Did watch the fight. I don't know. Like, I don't really have any thoughts on it. Like I have a hard time coming up with thoughts on like boxing, like actual good, honest boxing. Never mind this influencer stuff. And while Mike Perry is a fighter and a predominantly striker, he's a bare knuckle guy and an MMA guy. And the fight really was just showing his lack of actual boxing skill because he's not a boxer. And Jake Paul is going to continue to fight people who are not boxers. And when he fights people who are boxers, Tommy Fury, probably going to lose. There you go. That was uninsightful, I know, but that's about all I got. Let's talk about this UFC card here from the Apex Center. And 11 fight card, I went 6-5. Not great. Had a bad start. Lost the first two fights. Got rolling. Took 3 in a row. And then it went to pot again. And then it kind of came back on the home stretch. And I wound up with a winning record on the night. Came out on top on the betting, though, because the people I was particularly looking at, putting the money on, they did triumph. Virna Jandiroba triumphing. Had a little bit of money on that. I also had a little bit of money on Kurt Hollabaugh because he was an underdog. And I don't know why. Don't get me wrong. The Kanan Krzyzewski fight was like really close and everything. But he won and he was like a plus 115 underdog that I got him at. So, that was good. And then further on down, who else did I put the money on? I had money on Durden. He lost. I'm pretty happy about that, though. Honestly, fairly happy about that. And then further on down, I had a little bit of money on Hyder Amil, even though I didn't pick him. And he won, so that's great. That's dope. That's awesome. Solid. Lost a little bit of money on Brian Kelleher, even though I didn't pick him. I put a small bet on him. And let's see here. What else? I had Trey Ogden. He picked up the W. And I also had a little bit of money on Muhammad Usman because I was pretty confident on that one, but that one didn't pay off. So let's talk about Virna Jandiroba versus Amanda Lemos. This was the perfect fight from Virna Jandiroba, essentially. She gets an early takedown, gets caught in a guillotine, but she defuses it. She's fine. She's on top position. Lemos, she is very willing to grapple with her. There was some 50-50 stuff with like leg locks and, heel hooks and so on. So that was the thing. That was honestly the thing that kind of really stood out is that I was very confident that Lemos, I thought it would happen later, but I was very confident Lemos would at some point get stuck grappling with Jandiroba because she doesn't have a game to deny that, except for by being stronger. And you can't really do that with Virna Jandiroba. She will pull guard. She will, sacrifice position to get you down on the ground. And then the second round, she shoots in. Really not even a shot, more like a lunging tackle football style. Drives Lemos into the fence, completes a takedown, ends up in a weird spot. But again, she, works her way through it because Lemos doesn't just instantly disengage. And then at the end of the day, Virna Jandiroba takes the back, looking for a rear naked choke, can't get it, has the chin crusher, it's good, transitions to an armbar, and Lemos probably got away with a Brazilian tap where you do the one tap and then you don't complete it and the fight doesn't get called. But then she tapped out and there's no real big deal. So Virna Jandiroba with a big win and she called for a title shot afterwards. I don't think she's going to get, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like there's, it doesn't feel like there's a sizzle to having her fight Weili Zhang, I guess. That's the problem. She's absolutely earned it. I mean, I think she's, especially because the only other person really I can think of getting a title shot is Tatiana Suarez. And Tatiana Suarez is the most unreliable person in women's MMA right now. The number of injuries, little problems that she has that derails fights. It really makes it really hard to build any kind of pay-per-view or big card around her, which one would think they want to do with Weili Zhang at this point. So I don't know. Maybe that is the key. I do have put in a Zhang and Yan fight, though, making sense. And then for Lemos, Jillian Robertson would be a fun fight. It's reaching way, 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 way down the spectrum. Like it's a fight that doesn't really make any sense for someone like Lemos, who's only really lost to like Andrade, the champion, and someone who might be fighting for the belt. So like, that feels a little bit weird, but like I was kind of looking down the rankings on Tapology and just going, she's fought her. And these are all fights that I'm not interested in seeing a rematch of. So at some point you just end up with people like Robertson. So I'm going to put her in there, and probably won't happen, but hell of a win for Virna Jandiroba. Steve Garcia versus Suwo Choi. This went pretty much exactly how I thought it would be. Sting did land a nice elbow on separation from the clinch, and also landed a really, really, really hard low kick right to the calf that almost put Garcia on his knees. And then Garcia flurries, and things get messy and knocks him out. And that's what Steve Garcia does, I guess. I don't know. Like it's one of those things where like Steve Garcia, for a guy who's been with Jackson Wink for like a long time, and don't get me wrong, Jackson Wink has exceptional flaws as a gym, has huge problems as a gym. But it's weird that he's really developed like no real convincing technical game. Like his game is just, I'm going to make car crashes happen. And that means I'm going to get hit really hard, or even like just clinched up and like controlled. Like he has a couple of like these really dull fights where someone just like gets in on a body lock and he doesn't really have any ideas of how to like break it, except for like to be chaotic. But in this case, yeah, it was Choi being the best. I like watching this fight. I think Choi is the better technician. Still, I think I said that in my preview, but he doesn't handle the idea of like when he really connects hard and the guy just keeps coming. He is that guy who's like, why won't you die? And then it crumbles him. And Garcia was perfect to take advantage of that. So good work. Garcia called out Dan Ige afterwards. That's not happening. Don't get me wrong. Dan Ige versus Garcia is a fun idea. But Dan Ige just like, fought on a pay-per-view on hours notice against Diego Lopez and put up a decent fight. Like, do not put this man against Steve Garcia. And he also wants to face DC in golf. That might happen. My actual pick for him to fight, though, is Morgan Charrier. And for Choi, it's Lucas Almeida. And then we had Kurt Hallbaugh versus Kanan Khrushchevsky. This was a pretty good fight. I'm kind of interested as to what round, because I can see logic to give Khrushchevsky any of the 3 rounds. It's a bit weird. I was having a conversation on Twitter about this with somebody. What was the round? So Judge Adelaide Bird gave the 3rd round to Khrushchevsky. Sal D'Amato gave it the 3rd. Okay, so it's the 3rd round all around. I kind of thought it would be the 1st round because in the 1st round, it was a predominantly striking affair where like Hallbaugh was trying to get takedowns, was trying to put him on the mat. And he did have that control, obviously. He had like 2 minutes of control time in the clinch, whatever. That's not supposed to score. I scored that round for Hallbaugh, for the record. I had the same score as the people there, but like I kind of thought the 1st round was the one that Khrushchevsky landed more strikes in. I kind of thought that would be the case. But anyways, 2nd round, Khrushchevsky did have a big moment with a ninja choke attempt that was looking very tight. And I thought maybe that could steal it. I mean, at the end of the day, he was only outlanded by like 16 strikes, 12 of those being significant. But he also was badly hurt on the feet. Like there was a point in the 2nd round where Hallbaugh had really hurt Khrushchevsky, who was looking pretty tired, and went for a takedown instead of just like unloading on him with flurries of punches that probably could have ended the fight right there. I honestly really do think that because I don't have a tremendous respect for Khrushchevsky's chin. And then the 3rd round, it was essentially Khrushchevsky getting takedowns but getting out-scrambled because Hallbaugh would roll for like triangles or leg locks and stuff and get hit really, really hard, but eventually it would actually lead to Hallbaugh getting like on top and then finishing on with back control looking for a rear naked choke, but he probably would have been better off just pounding away because he wasn't going to submit Khrushchevsky with that little bit of time. Like it was like 30 seconds left. Anyways, Hallbaugh got the win, gets a W. His family and kids at cage side is a little overpowering because there was a lot of screaming. I don't really want to see him at the Apex again. Also, I mean, this is a guy who's like so fun and interesting as an action fighter. Why are we wasting him on an Apex fight? I don't understand it. Khrushchevsky, in some ways, impressed me, but I think the same basic fundamental flaws are there for him. I don't think he's a very smart fighter, which they of course had to make the jokes about him being with the fighting nerds. It's gonna increase his fight IQ. I don't think any of the fighting nerds are actually particularly smart fighters. Like they're all overwhelming physically. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Jean Silva. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Caio Bahaio. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Mauricio Ruffi, which, by the way, Daniel Cormier was trying to think of one of the fight nerds, but he's very impressive, but I don't remember his name. That was a bit of a bad moment. That was DC's bad moment for the card. Commentary was otherwise actually pretty good. But I don't know. It's just kind of a waste of Hallbaugh to put him on an Apex card like this. And Khrushchevsky needs to work on his defense. He needs to work on fighting smart, because nothing about his game is like smart. It's like either I overpower you and overawe you with pure physicality, or it doesn't really work. And I also said in the breakdown that if he was more wrestling heavy against Hallbaugh, that has historically been a path to victory, and that he probably wouldn't do it. And sure enough, he didn't try for a takedown until like pretty late in the second round, and then into the third round. Like the round he took was the round where like he went and wrestled, and by that time he was tired and couldn't get a finish. So there you go. Next opponents, I've got Hallbaugh versus Nicholas Moda. I think that would be a very fun fight. I've got Khrushchevsky versus Yanal Ashmuz. They're both guys that are on the roster who I do think have like potential. Like they have the raw physicality to do something, but they both are just significantly limited from their technical and fight IQ approach to the game, that I don't think it's going to work. But they do have that spark of physicality that could obviously be very impressive. So I don't know. We'll see. Put them together, and the winner, I guess, maybe can be a little bit of something. Cody Durden was doing what I expected him to do against Bruno Silva, although ironically not with the wrestling. He was just kind of putting a pace on him and like outlanding him. I'm kind of curious what were the numbers here. Yeah, outlanded him. Well, he didn't outland him by the end. But he outlanded him by a narrow margin in the first round, and then in the second round, Bruno Silva does Bruno Silva things. Durden actually hurt Silva kind of early and was looking for an anaconda choke like 3 times. And then he lost control from side control. Silva gets up, gets taken down again, gets up again, and then drops Durden and pounds the crap out of him. So Bruno Silva doing his thing, and I appreciate it. I love it. I'm a big Bruno Silva fan. It's just that there's not a lot of actual round winning ideas to his game. It's a lot of dynamic, not particularly plannable offense. And it's a style that I'm never going to really, it's a style that I'm going to be cheering for a lot, but not necessarily picking a lot. So there you go. For next opponents, Bruno Silva did call himself Bruno Bonus Silva. That's a good one. It's good run to it. Does love Donald Trump, which, whatever. It's MMA. MMA fighters have bad politics. I've got Silva against Alex Perez because I think that would be a fun fight. And for Durden, I had to go way back because like the weird thing is he's kind of fought everyone in like kind of his area, and also the fact that the flyweight division lost David Dvorak and is probably trying to get murdered again, and then all the standard things of Dana White hating 125 for men's fighting for some reason and just never really building it means that he's kind of just going to fall way back in the architecture. And I have him against Gwonsung Park, the winner from the Road to the UFC thing. Be a decent test for him. Doo Ho Choi versus Bill Algeo. Doo Ho Choi looked good. He looked good. I mean, I don't know how much this is really worth because like Algeo is kind of like an awkward opponent to fight and somebody who did just get hurt kind of badly in a couple of his fights recently. But he might be back. He might be back. He might be back. Anyways, he gets the knockout in the second round here with what is almost certainly a broken orbital ball. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it confirmed, but I imagine that Bill Algeo got his orbital broke here. Still, Algeo did have some takedown success, but so did Choi, and that's kind of, I guess, maybe something new to the pocket of Choi, that he kind of made this into a bit more of a grinding game, a little bit. Like there was a lot of clinch time in this fight, but that might be good for him because obviously the style that brought him all the hype and then the fight with Cub Swanson wasn't really working anymore. So it's probably a good thing that he is trying to adapt and make certain things more of a part of his game. And I've got him against Andre Fili. I've got Algeo against Fernando Padilla. Hyder Amil and Jung Young Lee just went full rock'em sock'em robots, and Hyder Amil is a harder puncher and knocked out Lee. That was it. The only problem with this is that I don't know if this answers my questions about Hyder Amil, because I didn't question his power. I didn't question his aggression. I didn't question his ability to win a mean fight like this. I questioned his ability to win a deeper technical fight, and just I guess in a nutshell, Lee never really managed to get him to fight like that. Never managed to get that. It was just like, we are going right in the pocket. We are going nose to nose, and we are going to throw haymakers at each other, and one of us is going to go down, and that's the fight that Hyder Amil wins against like most people. So I've got Hyder Amil against Christian Rodriguez. That would be an insightful fight. I have Jung Young Lee against Gabriel Miranda. I think that would be a reasonably fun fight. Brian Kelleher versus Cody Gibson. This was fun. Which I expected to be. These are two journeyman fighters who are just, really, really, really fun to watch fight. There wasn't a lot of striking here. This was a more grappling affair, obviously. Gibson going 2 for 5 on takedowns and eventually picking up the arm triangle? Yeah, arm triangle. I was trying to remember. I remembered it was a choke because Kelleher always gets choked. But yeah, arm triangle for Cody Gibson with the win. This is a big deal for him because it had been a while since Cody Gibson had won in the UFC. Of course, he came back via the season of the Ultimate Fighter with the Stars versus Veterans versus whatever it was, the Conor McGregor versus Chandler season. Got to the finals against Brad Katona, lost to Brad Katona, lost to Miles Johns. So he gets back here. He beats Brian Kelleher. This is his first win in the UFC since he beat Johnny Bedford in 2014. So it's been like a decade. So congratulations. Got the W. Got it the way I, let's be honest, kind of expected it to. But yeah, still pretty good. Still pretty good. I've got Gibson against John Matsumoto and Kelleher versus a Dana White Contender Series grad. Although you could also just put Kelleher against anybody who's an action fighter and he's going to be a fun time. Miranda Maverick versus Dion Barboza. I gave Miranda Maverick the clean sweep here over Barboza. I wonder where was, because one judge gave Barboza a round. I'm kind of curious what it would have been. Second round on Michael Bell's card went to Dion Barboza. Let's see here. Trying to remember this fight. This fight was just largely Barboza being unable to enforce her will as a grappler on Miranda Maverick and settling for bottom control because she ended up there for 8 minutes of the fight. And the one takedown she did, she overplayed and ended up on bottom anyways. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at the numbers here, and there was one submission attempt by Barboza that they marked here in the second round, which was, it was a guillotine attempt. I didn't think that was particularly close. She did hit a nice hip toss, which was her only takedown of the fight, and a nice spinning elbow, so she had the damaging moments. I guess you could give it that way, but Barboza, too strong, too powerful, and this is a limitation for Barboza, I think, is that she is somebody who is going to accept bottom. It's kind of like the Virna Jandiroba thing, except that I don't think Barboza is anywhere near the scrambler that Virna is. I don't think so. I think she actually has better takedowns because I think she's a better athlete. But she's going to have to learn she's going to have to learn the hard way that, like, there are certain things she needs to adapt her game before it's going to be really functioning. Now, she's going to win fights against people who are weak grapplers, people she can take down, people she can kind of bully. It's there. It's fine. And she has some ideas on the feet. She had that nice spinning elbow, like I said, and she looks pretty comfortable there, but it's not as great. I've got Miranda Maverick against Karine Silva. I know I had Karine Silva against Tracy Cortez last week, but don't worry. I got that covered because I got a new opponent for Cortez. And I've got Barboza against Montana De La Rosa, which is just basically a step down from Miranda Maverick on the physicality, but like with the same kind of reasonably well-rounded, reasonably well-thought-through skill set. Although De La Rosa's boxing is still based around the idea that she has hand speed that she just doesn't have. But anyways, it'd be a good test. Lodek Razibov versus Trey Ogden. This was not amazing. In fact, I missed most of the first round because I was making chicken wings. And I have no desire to go back and watch that round because apparently it was 4 minutes and 35 seconds of back control for Ogden. Anyways, obviously he won that round. I would say he probably run all 3 rounds, although Radzhabov did get some hard shots in, but he overloads everything he does, so it leaves him open to low kicks. It also means he's being force-fed a counter jab pretty much every time he tries to do anything, like he just gets bashed with a jab. Ogden got him down, tried to go for an arm triangle, didn't get it, and then in the third round, early takedown from Ogden. We end up with a lot of control time. He goes for a front headlock, guillotine maybe, and then Radzhabov manages to scramble back out, land some ground and pound from top position. The corner and the commentary want Radzhabov to get up. I have that noted here, which was absolutely true because he needed to finish at this point. He was down 2 rounds to none. I think it was pretty clear. And the ground and pound's not really landing clean. Like Ogden, surprisingly good at defending against it, like blocking a lot of it. A lot of it was hitting the canvas. There you go. And then Ogden finishes off with the comical, launching him off with butterfly hooks twice at the end. I did score this round for Ogden, but I think you could go the third round for Radzhabov if you wanted, but it's too little too late. Ogden versus Nurullo Aliyev would be a fun fight, and I've got Radzhabov against Charlie Campbell because I have really big doubts about Charlie Campbell. I know a lot of people think Charlie Campbell is like going to be really, really good. Like there's a hype around him that I cannot buy into. But if he can just like nuke Radzhabov, I'd probably change my tune a little bit. Luana Carolina versus Lucy Pudilova. It was Pudilova being unable to get takedowns consistently and having to clinch with Carolina repetitively and getting out clinched and like land. She got hit hard off of like every clinch separation with elbows and stuff. I don't have a lot of positives today here, unfortunately, for Pudilova. She wasn't able to put a pace on Carolina, who apparently came into this with a broken foot like a week ago. I assume that's a mistranslation. It was just an injured foot, but fighters have fought with broken foot before. It's not that weird. Anyways, Carolina is my replacement for Tracy Cortez because Carolina is a pretty athletic fighter. Tracy Cortez is somebody who kind of has to big brother and outpace somebody. Carolina is a decent test of that, while being something she could probably win. And Pudilova I've got against Dana White Contender Series grads because it's kind of where we're at this point. And then Thomas Peterson versus Mohammed Usman. I scored rounds 1 and 3 for Peterson. I'm just basically going to read the stats off for this one because it was pretty dull. Peterson's wrestling didn't really do much. He had like less than a minute. He had like a minute of top control. Apparently 1 minute and 1 second of control time in this fight. He was 2 for 5 on takedowns, but like it was just Usman not doing much. Apparently they both landed 22 strikes in the first round, but then Peterson outlanded him 30-17 in the second round and 44-24 in the third round, 29-24 on significant strikes on that one. I don't know. It was Usman not really getting going, like at no point. Like he allowed Peterson, who has a suspect gas tank, to set the pace. And generally speaking, most fighters can hold a pace for 15 minutes if they're allowed to dictate it. And Usman did that. So I was just really disappointed with Mohammed Usman. That's all I can really do. Not that he cares, but it was disappointing to see him face off with a pretty simple like test. Like realistically, something that Jamal Pogues easily passed. And Usman is supposed to be a better athlete than that. And he didn't do it. Didn't do it. So there you go. As for next opponents, I don't really care for either of these guys because I'm disappointed in Usman, and I'm just not big on Peterson, who Peterson is Sergey Spivak without the cardio, and I don't really think that that's a good winning policy. Is Parker Porter still around? I'd be down for Parker Porter versus Thomas Peterson. Usman versus Austin Lane in the football bowl of kind of athletic but not really good at much fighters would be fine. And I would assume Usman would knock out Austin Lane because I'm going to be picking Austin Lane, who's a glass cannon, to get knocked out a lot. But anyways, that's all. Check out the links down below for my social medias, my gaming stuff, and we got UFC 304 coming up, and for a pay-per-view, this is not great, but there are some fights that I'm going to have some nice things to say about on this card because, it's a pay-per-view. They've got stuff here. I'm reasonably interested in pretty much everything on the main card. Although the idea that Christian Leroy Duncan, Gregory Rodriguez is now on the main card and Muhammad Mokaev and Manal Kopp is not is gross. It's gross. Guys, stop murdering flyweight. Stop doing this. The flyweight fights are fun. They're good. It's a good division. Stop doing it. But at the same time, there's also fights like Callum Logren versus Jake Hadley, which I think is fairly self-explanatory. McParkin versus Luka Bresky, which I don't think will be particularly good. Oban Elliott versus Preston Parsons. I know a lot of people think Oban Elliott's going to be good. I don't buy into it. And then you got Kiefer Crosby versus Sam Peterson. Shauna Bannon versus Elise Ardeline, who is not very good, who is very bad. Runner for worst signing in a while. And then a terrible fight between Modestas Bukauskas and Marcin Prachnio, which I am horrified by. But anyways, links down below. Talk to you on Tuesday and or not Tuesday if you turn into my stream. But I'll have picks on Thursday. I'll try to have them on time this week, and hopefully the job hunt doesn't get in the way.